Hi, everyone, on this first night of October 2025. It was about 80 years ago that the sleeping prophet Edgar Cayce wrote in his journal that he could see in a vision the far future date of October 29th, 2025. Cayce said in his vision he saw a blade of light that would be seen by people on Earth involving, quote, mysterious forces, close quote, that will cause destructions on Earth. October 29th, 2025 is now only 4 weeks away. And it is eerie that Cayce 80 years ago warned about Earth's October 29th, 2025 future. And now that same date is only 1 month away, while the big astronomical mystery of 3I Atlas is coming straight at us. Since July 1st, 2025, when 3I Atlas was first discovered, astronomers have been closely following a huge interstellar object as it speeds toward our solar system at 130,000 to 150,000 miles an hour. That is the fastest speed ever recorded for a cosmic visitor to our solar system. And now, by September 2025, astrophysicist Avi Loeb at Harvard University is reporting that the fast, huge, mysterious object 3I Atlas could be even more massive than first thought. Dr. Loeb now estimates that, quote, the diameter of 3I Atlas's solid density nucleus must be larger than 3.1 miles. What is the estimated length? They're waiting for more calculations. And with me tonight to talk about the ever-changing headlines of 3I Atlas is Dick Allgire, who founded the Future Forecasting Group in Hawaii, a team of professional remote viewers who explore such mysteries as UFOs, ancient anomalies, what's coming in future events, which now does include 3I Atlas, only the third interstellar visitor ever seen by humans on Earth. Dick Allgire is a veteran newsman whose bio says, quote, turned to remote viewing in 1997, right after the U.S. government quietly declassified its psychic spy program. He trained for years under Glenn Wheaton, a former member of a secret Army Special Forces unit tasked with developing remote viewing for intelligence operations. And what they taught was not theory. It is a method to see across space and time. Dick quickly rose to the top of civilian ranks, becoming one of the most prolific and respected remote viewers in the world. With hundreds of documented hits on double-blind targets, he is the most published remote viewer alive today. And he helped form Future Forecasting Group, a team of elite remote viewers who explore the mysteries of UFOs and anomalies, future, past, and the seismic shift toward a digital financial system. Their work is rigorous, double-blind, and you can explore the archive at all caps, ffgrv.com. So let's start today with Dick Allgire, your current remote viewing efforts around this important question. What are future news headlines around the world going to look like from now for the next few weeks?
The first vision that I had was black skies. And I need to explain that when I see that, these are just snapshots. So when we look at future news events, we have a team of 4 viewers, and each of them try to get snapshots of events that will be in the news in the next 30 days to 90 days. And so we don't do full sessions on them. It's just like a glimpse. And so what I got a glimpse of was a city, and the sky was very dark in the daytime, and it was something not good. It had a very ominous feeling. I think I wrote people choking, having a difficult time breathing. Our feeling is that the comet may be bringing some disruptions to the sun, to the rotational torque of the planets, and might cause some earth changes, earthquakes, tsunamis, severe weather events, solar flares, and that type of thing. That could be what I'm seeing with the dark skies.
And Richard, you don't mean comet, because everything about the...
Whatever that is, yeah. They're calling it a comet, but we don't know.
Well, in terms of size and chemistry, where it has all nickel with no iron, and that does not exist on Earth, there is something highly strange about the 3I Atlas, whatever it is. And that's what I'm hoping we can see through your eyes and your work with remote viewers. Are there headlines that you already have had submitted from your remote viewing efforts that would take us, say, to the end of December? And are you seeing headlines that might relate to destruction on our own planet?
The corroborated data from the remote viewers, and we just recorded that earlier this week, was blackened skies. We saw oil fires. It looked like when Saddam Hussein set all the oil fields on fire in the Gulf War, the horizon was full of these black smoke. I saw that. And then we had 3 remote viewers corroborating severe earthquakes in the next 90 days.
Where?
I think South Asia, like Azerbaijan, Afghanistan, north of there. It was basically earthquakes will be in the news, and we don't have a specific location, but it was more in the like Uzbekistan, Iran, that area of the world.
Okay. If there's going to be Saddam-like black smoke, what do you think is causing it if it is from this object that's coming through with such a mysterious way?
This is not from remote viewing. This is something I'm getting from other sources, is that the solar system is a finely tuned gear. It is a very intricately balanced machine with the rotation of the planets, the movement of the sun through the galaxy, and that the sun we're moving through a portion of the galaxy that has denser material, so it's causing a flex and perturbations in the sun. So it may be like the flexing of the Earth's core that would cause earthquakes, tsunamis, that type of thing. A lot of people are expecting the big tsunami, the flood. That seems to be a periodic event in the Earth's crust every 20, 30,000 years.
Black smoke on the Earth, that provokes people who have either had dreams or a lot of questions about, is there going to be destruction on the surface of the Earth from whatever is going on with this object? And that comes up so much. That's why I'm asking if there would be a connection directly between the presence of this and black smoke, because what would be causing fire, explosions, and black smoke?
One thing that I have been seeing in other remote viewings, we were looking at like the precipitating event for the death of the dollar, and I've done that over the years, and I get colored skies, like people looking up, and like the aurora borealis is super intense, like aurora borealis on steroids. The sky is dazzling with colors, and that's going to be an ominous thing.
And ominous because?
Because there's such a charge in the atmosphere.
And you associate that now with 3I Atlas?
We looked at it, but we're not obsessed with that. And it's also difficult as remote viewing, the amount of data you get as a remote viewer, to be able to make all those connections and associations. it would take godlike qualities of a remote viewer to be able to give you a definitive answer on that. We did see black skies. We did see smoky skies, oil fires, and earthquakes. Whether that's directly related to 3I Atlas, not sure, but it is the same time frame. So we do have these ominous feelings. This year alone, I've done over 1,000 pages of remote viewing. So I've done hundreds of thousands of remote viewings in my 27-year career. UFO type stuff, we don't do that often. I'm interested in it, but as remote viewing targets, I would say it's maybe 1% of the targets I do. We mostly look at what was happening at Göbekli Tepe back in the day? How did the Freemasons design Washington, D.C., or what is going to be the precipitating event to cause the death of the dollar? What does the eighth generation Tesla robot going to be like in the future? Will it be lifelike, human-like? And so they slipped us this target unexpectedly, and I addressed the target ID. This was in early August, I think, or late July. And the first thing I realized was, wow, this is something big. It's motion and mass. It's big, and it's moving fast. Then I reset, and I look again, and I go, wow, I'm in a star field. This is beautiful. I'm out in space. As a remote viewer, you kind of conditioned to expect that you're going to be somewhere on Earth, that you're going to be given a person, a place, a thing, some activity here on the planet, past, present, or future. And to find yourself in galactic space looking at motion and mass. Whoa, what am I seeing here? So I look again, I go, I'm looking at our solar system, and there's something really big moving through it. And then I looked again, and I said, there's going to be a solar flare. I see the sun, and I see it really is shooting hot gases off. And I still don't know what the target is. So I'm thinking, is my target the sun? Why am I seeing the sun? I go, but there's this thing over here that's moving through the solar system, and it's interacting with the sun in some way. There's hot gases shooting off the sun. And then I realized that this thing was guided.
Guided.
Yeah, that there was some distant point that was creating its trajectory. And I didn't know whether that was gravity, like the gravity of our solar system that was drawing it in, or if it was it felt more to me like it was being directed. It felt like a tractor beam or something guiding it. It's moving through the solar system and it's being directed.
I just got feedback on a most interesting remote viewing target. I was given this target ID A1R0-L1N0. This was worked double blind with no monitoring, meaning someone emailed me this target ID. I didn't know who generated the target. I had no communication with anyone. No one monitored me. This is some of the data that I produced. Remote viewing, the experience for the viewer has any range of things. You can get ideas, you can get shadowy images, you can write down columns of words, you can get conceptual data, all of it valid. But for me, the money shot, the really amazing part, is when you have an experiential full visual, and it doesn't happen every time. And in this case it did, and it was a remarkable experience for me. So I want to take you through some of this data produced under double-blind protocol on target A1R0-L1N0. Had my desk set up, I did a cool down. I was doing it at 1330 sidereal when the mass of the center of the Milky Way, the noise of the center of the Milky Way, is shielded by the Earth. And it's thought that your psiability is enhanced at that time. And certainly for me on this target, it seemed to work. So the first thing I got when I addressed this target and had the bilocation event was this big thing out there in the darkness. And I realized that this target, mostly what it involved was motion and mass. Those were the ideas that came to me. A big hunk of something that exhibited motion and mass. That's interesting because when you work a remote viewing target, you generally assume that you're going to be placed somewhere on Earth, past, present, or future, where you're going to see an event, a location, people interacting, some object, some architectural aspect, or some landmass. And in this, I was just like, wow, there's just this thing that's motion and mass. So I look again, have another bilocation event where I see space and stars, and I realize that I'm seeing like portions of our solar system at a distance, and I could sense the elliptic, the orbits of the planet. And I said, wow, this is the solar system. I was like, wow, cool target, what is this? So I go back in, I look again. What I'm having these experiences, then I jot them down on paper, and I go back and I bilocate again. And this time I'm out in the inky blackness of space with stars all around, and I write, I'm looking at the night sky, I can see constellations in the Milky Way, and there's some connection to the stars. And this was just an awesome experiential event for me. So I look yet again, and now I see the sun, and I can see a coronal mass ejection, like I'm looking at a big solar flare. And I realized that this is something that's affecting Earth in some weird way. And I get the idea of EMF, like hyperionized plasma, and something from the sun is breathing life into something that I need to see in space. So at this point, I go more to the more conscious of the here and now paper, the Playfair data collection matrix, which is unique to the HRVG methodology. And I get low-level data where I see this object again, and I realize that the smells are acrid and the temperatures are cold, and more data. And again, I sense motion, like this is mass in motion. And then I see it moving really, really rapidly. I see this rapid movement that I know is affected by gravity. So at this point, I stop and I ponder this, and I write, in this target I sense danger, coiled energy of a force I don't understand. And I ask, is it powered by the sun? Like there's some connection between the sun and this mass that is moving through the solar system. So I look again, have another experiential event, and this is over the course of like over an hour, and I see this thing, and I realize it's being pulled through space like by a tractor beam, and I try to draw that as I experienced it from my vantage point in space. So one last look, and I see this mass again, and then there's a point way distant in space, and I realize that this is something guided at a distance by some exotic form of transmission, and I realized the precision is amazing, and some form of gravity or traction or some beam is guiding this thing. So of course the target was 31 Atlas, this strange comet that is at the edge of our solar system heading our way. A lot of people are wondering about it. I did see it. And there's more data to come. There is more to the session. You can see the full presentation. We have a new website, by the way, and that website, ffgrv.com. Used to be futureforecastinggroup.com. It's a new one. ffgrv, ffgrv.com. Get a membership today. We're having a dandy time remote viewing. This session, I only get ones this good, this vivid, this experiential, maybe 3 or 4 times a year, and this was a good one.
While our solar system is the center of attention now because of 3I Atlas, I want to share some news today from ExploreWeb on MSN, starting with, quote, Giant lava tunnels on Venus puzzle scientists. Their huge size is peculiar and has forced scientists to throw out their pet theories on how planetary lava tunnels form. And second, from Futurism on MSN, quote, scientists confirm massive underground tunnels on Venus. They found evidence of, quote, very, very big tube volumes, close quote. And they're talking about really deep underground. And a third headline from ZME Science on MSN. Venus is hiding massive underground tunnels that are much bigger than expected. And then this new evidence is that underground tunnels on Venus span continents, whole continents on that planet. Could some of these deep underground tunnels have life forms? And I want to throw that question to my colleague in England, Ian Halling. He's standing by to look at the chat, and this huge amount of astronomy information coming in tandem with 3I Atlas. Ian, hi.
Hi, Linda. Thank you. Thanks for that report. And yes, you're right. It seems every day we're getting more and more information, not only about 3I Atlas and also the speculation that goes with it, but also the reports, the solid science reports about our solar system and our closest neighbours, including Venus, which is very much considered to be one of our planet's twin, normally the same size and density, although, as everyone points out, it's hellishly hot.
Yeah.
But to have these huge tubes, lava tubes on there, where we've always speculated as well that the lava tubes on the moon and Mars may one day serve as some sort of a haven for humanity if they should ever have to leave this world, or that they would maybe use a natural place to shelter on another world. But yeah, it's incredible. We're getting these reports one after another. The chat's very lively tonight with the speculation and talk about 3I Atlas. And thank you again for bringing us the remote viewers' unique view on this strange object heading towards us.
And
so,
Ian,
thanks again.
Yeah,
yes.
The idea of deep underground volumes spanning continents, it reminds me so much of how many times in the last 45 years, in doing investigations of bloodless animal mutilations and human abductions and all of the facets of that, there have been over and over again people who have worked in military or the government have said to me, a key to understanding where extraterrestrial life is in our solar system is you look deep underground. You look deep under the basins of the oceans. You look under deep Antarctica, as if the extraterrestrial communities themselves are deliberately going deep inside of planetary bodies for protection and maybe for another reason that we have not yet thought about. But I personally, don't you feel that these are the kinds of disclosures, and they're coming more quickly, that are sort of have an energy of their own building up to that huge headline that so many people have been expecting for so many years? We're not alone in this vast universe that has trillions of galaxies and stars.
You're right. A lot for the years we've been looking, and I'm taken back to the old adage, as above, so below, and that the answers may be actually closer to us than we actually think, and not so deep, far off in space. There's already the speculation with the headlines as well about the speculation about alien bases under the sea, and I think that Representative Burchett was even saying that he's gone on record now as saying that he believes there may be up to 5 known bases under the Earth's oceans. From the comments tonight, Dr. Dolores Mai says, question already. I've watched a report that says there are 9 other craft near 3I Atlas that can't be seen, but some other telemetry tells them they are here. Is it true? And this is another speculation that this may be the first or the largest, and that it is actually being followed by some also unknown but tracked objects on the telemetry.
And they may be in collaboration with whoever is in the giant 3I Atlas. And that is the big unknown. I had a discussion with John Brandenburg about that. If the 3I Atlas is 3.5 miles wide, and we don't know the distance, but if that number that Avi Loeb, the professor at Harvard University, has said that he thinks that 3I Atlas is at least now 3.5 miles wide. And if anybody listening, if you're a scientist, you privately know what the length is, call in, we can report it tonight. But a huge, gigantic object that's bigger than anything, right, that humans have ever known to approach Earth.
That's right. That's the actual huge size of it that's coming towards us. But it's the question specifically is if there's anything that's following it behind that as well. This may be the first of perhaps a probe that's coming towards us.
Meaning that they could be something. If there are wars in the stars like Star Trek, and whatever 3I Atlas is doing, that there could be maybe good or bad followers.
There's the parallels with the science fiction. Always these parallels as well.
Star Trek.
Yes. Well, again, you mentioned Star Trek, and that's another good one. That's where Mike Basil says he first heard the word tractor beam.
That's right.
And now he's hearing it again.
And wasn't it so interesting when I started doing the interview with the wonderful, wonderful remote viewers, and thinking that when I was a kid, it seems like, that watching Star Trek always felt to me like I was actually watching something that was real. And it is now we're having discussions in the context of something coming into this solar system that may or may not interact with Earth and other planets, but is definitely not just a rock. Would you say that that's true? Do you feel that that is true?
Yeah, and I guess that's the sentiment as well that's felt in our audience, and particularly those who are paying attention to what is happening and looking for answers.
And
I wanted to just
and the questions at when we did that transition, October 29, 2025. It goes back. It was in August, and I was doing I just sat and did nothing but look at what YouTube and others were showing about Elon Musk and 3I Atlas. And remember, it was only 2 or 3 weeks ago that I was talking about this strange video of Elon Musk wearing the silk tie, the silk shirt, and the suit jacket. And in that video, which everybody says it's artificial intelligence, but somebody put it in motion. Somebody had a content bias. And when he said those words, I feel so sorry that some of you who are working so hard with children and are looking forward to the holidays, they may not come or it will be interrupted. There was that tone in that August time period. And now, and as I kept getting those kinds of videos in YouTube, it made me wonder, and I typed in a search on Edgar Cayce, the Sleeping Prophet. That was what I did in August. And it came up with a documentary that was fascinating, beautifully done. I believe it was all black and white, so it was an older film, but it was beautifully done. And at the time, I didn't write down all the titles, but I watched this whole production, and one of the scenes was recreating Edgar Cayce about 80 years ago, where he has this vision, and this specific date, October 29th, 2025, he wrote down, and it showed a man's hand in the film writing. He wrote down in one of his journal books, he kept journal books going, October 29, 2025, and described what he saw in the vision. And it had to do with all kinds of environmental turmoil and comets and debris and all sorts of things that he saw. Well, we are now 4 weeks away, and I find it more than eerie. It's like, how does the universe work if 80 years before an event happens, that a sensitive Homo sapien gets images and writes them down, and 80 years later, what he wrote down about this date seems to be raising its head as possibly something that's true. And if you had seen that Elon Musk video, it was like he was afraid of something coming legitimately. We don't know. Some of these trillionaires, they probably are pretty good actors, and we know that it's AI. But why would he be going to AI and telling this story? So over and over again, there are signal after signal that people on this planet have known long before this date of October 1st. They've known for quite a while that there was something highly unusual coming our way. And Avi Loeb at Harvard, he may turn out to have been quite correct. What do you think, Ian?
Yeah, well, Avi Loeb has been defending his position on this, that what he's encouraging people to do is to look at the speculation and look at the other alternatives, etc. That he's not actually confirmed definitely. He's never said 100% that he believes this is an alien craft. That just that there's a significant reasons to suspect that is the case. So that's important to bear in mind. And Avi Loeb is still out there. There's still plenty of most recent interviews that he's been doing with that. We've got a lot of people in the chat who are also worth bearing in mind that the video that you referenced with Elon Musk, he's never said anything officially on this. That is now thought to be AI generated, nothing to do with Elon Musk at all.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying.
There's a lot of content out there.
Yeah, when I say it's AI, that's what people have concluded. But if you saw in August what I saw, going through a whole bunch of videos, and it was just one. It just came up in a string of videos. That then it was somebody was trying to disguise it as a real video. It was not until later that it became clear from interacting with some scientists and people that it was an example of artificial intelligence. But it emerged, Ian, without any fanfare, no introduction. It was there in YouTube, and it had a very sober story from Elon Musk about something coming that might affect the Earth. And that was back in August. So anyway, what are some chats, comments that we can get into?
Well, first of all, Alien Girl is with us tonight. Hi, Alien Girl, and she's referencing Project Hail Mary. Again, it's another science fiction reference. This is the Project Hail Mary novel, I think, which is a science fiction novel by Andy Weir set in the near future. And again, it features someone on a spacecraft, and it features links to Venus, which we've been mentioning here. I won't go into the whole thing, but she thinks we should look that up. We've got Chris Guns here says, we're not doomed and we must think positive. And a lot of people are saying, yes, we have to think positive and maintain a positive attitude to this, not think that it's necessarily all doom and gloom coming towards us, which is, again, what we go back to with Chris George Alexander last week said it could be a spacecraft with a comet costume, but even if it's a spacecraft, we're not necessarily to think that it's hostile in its intent.
Well, and look at Richard Allgire's remote viewing. I have really enjoyed working with him and others and talking about how the remote viewer approaches and how serious it is. It is truly serious. He's been doing this for a good portion of his life. He is at the top of the ranks of remote viewers, and the illustrations that he made of the black skies, comparing it to the Saddam Hussein oil fields burning. Something in me feels that something like that could be coming too. I don't understand it. And Richard doesn't try to fill in gaps. The remote viewers that I have been talking to, and I'm going to have another program in the near future with another one of their very, very, very skilled remote viewers. I think that it makes sense that this is something that humans can do because of what the Pentagon has been talking about in the last year about consciousness, energy. Energy cannot be destroyed. Therefore, life and death cycles, there cannot be a destruction of the soul is the implication. And that there is a gathering of information through lives that is resonating or reacts to or is like the frequencies of the whole universe can be picked up by human minds and other minds with information. And that may be what is happening now at 3I Atlas is something that has a huge interaction with the cosmos, is trying to do something that would get human attention. Maybe we need to learn more so that we too can survive.
The question has arisen about why it's, I mean, I know it's coming at this incredible speed, but some people are saying it's taking too long. And Candy the Brave says aliens don't take months to reach us. Part of the reason and the speculations from people who say this is an alien probe is that it's meant to be there to bring our attention to their presence or to the presence of an alien presence as it approaches us.
And Ian, do you think it is possible that this could be the first forward Act 1 that has Act 2 and Act 3 already planned of finally introducing us to other life in the universe and doing it this way, taking months of our getting used to what is this, and scientists reporting what they are finding? Do you think, and I'd be interested how many people in the chat already wonder if that's what's happening, that ETs are coming to introduce themselves finally, that we're not alone in the universe?
And what better way of introducing themselves than by putting a huge object that has a very deliberate trajectory very close to our planet and maybe coming with and of such huge size.
And most interested in Mars. That's the planet I think it's most interested in. And that orbit, the closest planet it goes to is Mars, not Earth.
That's right. And it's our closest planet, and it's what we always think that we may have to, or that Mars may be going to be terraformed. We may have to terraform Mars sometime in the future, or maybe ETs have a plan for us, including Mars, and maybe making it habitable for humans to exist or to exist again on another planet.
And Elon Musk
yeah,
is saying, no, that's my job. I get to do Mars.
The ETs, the thing to remember is the ETs always control the situation, and perhaps the ETs will now wrestle this out of the hands of the, let's say, the people holding what Steve Bassett calls the truth embargo for 80 plus years, and that there will be undeniable proof of an alien presence that will be right in front of our eyes, and therefore governments will be forced to admit that we are not alone.
Yeah, and what are people saying in the chat? What I'd love to know what sort of the tone is.
Yeah, J Truth Seeker says, from my own remote viewings, 3i Atlas looks like an alien seed matrix hive shift. It's interesting that a lot of our viewers practice remote viewing themselves, and they are on online classes and taking up lessons and trying this out for themselves. So it's interesting to hear their findings. So we welcome that. Please join us and send us any of your information to us.
And Ian, today in the New York Times, there was an article about the possibility that what 3i Atlas might actually be is an advanced civilization seeder, SEEDER, carrying vast amounts of material for the seeding, the creation of a new galaxy. That was in the New York Times.
Yeah, that's amazing to hear that the New York Times as well is carrying reports of that level of speculation. Often, and even during this last week, I was listening to an abductee relate how they were on board a huge craft with what seemed like they just couldn't say how big it was, but it was absolutely huge, and it was packed with tubes and all sorts of things that may be carrying almost like what we call a Noah's Ark event, enough information, enough genetic material to perhaps seed another planet or start again somewhere else. And they said that the sheer physical size of the craft and the amount of material on board looked like it was obviously for this sort of purpose.
And when did this occur? What date? This year or?
Oh no, this person's talking about their historical events of being taken on board craft, but we'll revisit that and see what they can come up with, especially in relation to this 3i Atlas.
So it's an old abduction story.
That's right.
Okay.
And again, it goes back to a lot of these people who have had these experiences on ships, some of which accept these ships are huge, of which 3i Atlas could be one of these.
And in my own book, Glimpses of Other Realities, Volume 2, that chapter that is 106 pages with illustrations by fellow human beings about being inside of a huge UFO disk and seeing all kinds of clear tubes in a vast room, and in each tube were different humanoids. They could be 8 foot tall, red-haired, white-skinned, or they could be short, or they could be human, or they could be other. And I have been receiving more, I would say, letters, handwritten letters, about people seeing these tubes that have also been described by some people in books. But what is this technology that huge, gigantic craft might be being used to repopulate a new planet and to preserve the life forms? They are put in tubes to make vast transitions.
Yeah, the life forms as well. People are saying that these are also where a lot of the hybrids are, and that a lot of the hybrids perhaps are now just some suspended animation, or that there may be even clones that are being prepared to suddenly repopulate a planet. So your point about it coming very close to Earth, close to Mars,
Yeah.
ties in with one of the comments that we had from someone. I can't find it right now, but they said, is it something to do with the terraforming or perhaps an ET plan to terraform Mars?
Right.
So let's see if we can find
Right.
that. Anyway.
Ex-
Going back to the comments as well this evening, Space Ghost is with us tonight and says, does Linda think 3I Atlas has any link to a Jim Mars information about a sea level rise?
Well, Jim and
Jim
I were the best friends, and we sure did compare a lot of notes. I will go try to do the short version. One of the deepest subjects that Jim Mars and I went into was after I had a 2014 encounter discussion with, I'll just call it the physicist. And he sought me out, and he sought me out in a way that it would never be public. And I have never forgotten it, because he said, I am old and I don't know for how much longer, and I want you to understand how much science efforts that we have done. We are dealing with extraterrestrials. We are dealing with many deep underground bases on our planet. We, the United States, have huge, gigantic facilities underground in many places. And he said, I just want you to know that by the year 2030, he's saying this, I've always remembered and referenced it, 2030. By the year 2030, that he had been working as a physicist on a project in which they were anticipating there would be a micronova in the sun that is cyclic. There are differences about, does it come every 12,000 years or 20,000 years or 24,000, but there is a cycle in which the sun goes through what is called by scientists a micronova. And I still can remember when he said to me, do you know how high your house is? And I said, I think it's about 5,200 and some feet, so it's about a mile. He said, with a grin, well, you might get your feet wet. I didn't know what he was talking about. And then he unfolded for about 3 hours a tremendous, if you were him or any physicist inside of this challenge for decades, as he says he was, it had to do with this natural cycle on the sun that extraterrestrials had communicated with our government would happen, has happened, and that by 2030, some places on Earth along water might be a mile underwater or more. Now, recently there have been some releases about how the shorelines of the Earth now, that AI is taking on that question. I think it was a big article in the New York Times about this. So that areas that are famous with beaches now may all be a mile underwater after this micronova. And the science, the physics of the micronova is something that all of you, I think, would find not only interesting but helpful in today's chaotic headlines about what is coming. Read about micronova. They have happened before. That is what took out the saber-toothed tiger and the big woolly mammoth about 12,000 years ago. It was a micronova in the sun. Would it really happen again by 2030? And if so, why? Because we've learned so much. The physicist was saying we're working with ETs so that we can cope. And I think trying to cope is a physicist's language for we're working on the problem that I've just discussed, and we may have help, and the help may be from other beings. just think, Ian, of the facets that we have just talked about on the Earthfiles YouTube channel and how much more is going to unfold in this unbelievable time leading up to 2030. That was also one of the years on many of the remote viewers who work for the CIA, NSA, DIA in Washington in the end of the 80s into the early 90s. And they saw the planet with a lot more water than now. What is going to happen, and do we need to be afraid? I still feel strongly, as strongly as I could possibly communicate, that there is thought in the light, and the light is infinite. It has to work against the dark. And that maybe these big planetary moves that are taking place now are because maybe the yin and the yang battle has gotten too close. I'm not afraid, but I'm nervous about what could happen. And I hope every single soul listening tonight will remember when I said, you are one with the light, and the light is one with you. Even the government says energy cannot be destroyed, and therefore the energy of a soul cannot be destroyed. And that the beings that are in whatever is out there, that they may themselves want to agape hug, as the Greeks said, themselves. If only we could get this entire huge evolutionary story on the chapter having to do with always tell the truth, and that this civilization of 8 billion humanoid people, Homo sapien, deserve to know the whole truth. And what is on the planets where these various re-emerging, we'll say, forces, possibly craft, are coming toward us. And that unlike a Star Trek movie or a Hollywood movie, maybe a craft this big coming between 130,000 and 150,000 miles an hour, maybe it knows something that we don't. And maybe we'll get to 2030. And what is going to happen has happened. And that in the end, maybe if it is the first step for other intelligences in this universe to approach us, it was to help us. I try to hold that, even when it feels dangerous. And then always, when you feel danger, think inside of yourself, look at everybody that you love, and say, I am your fellow being. I am one with the light is one with me, and I am in the hands of the divine light forever. I hope that's the frequency that continues to grow on this planet instead of who can kill who has the most money. How boring. How wonderful to go to Africa and help animals survive. And those are the two competing forces on Earth now. I'm going to do more with another very talented remote viewer in the upcoming 2 or 3 weeks at Earthfiles YouTube channel. And I want to thank all of you. Our subscriptions have increased now past 293,000. And I think of you all, 293,000 fellow beings that are helping something on this planet that I would say is a kind of battle between energies. And it's unfolding as we live it. And thank you for being at Earthfiles YouTube. And on that note, with my throat breaking, agape hug all of you guys. And I'll see you back here in 2 weeks, because this coming week I have to go to Coast, sorry, in Los Angeles I have to go to Ancient Aliens on the coast. And I will be back that next week. So if I could split in two, I would do the show every week live, but I really am glad to hear from so many of you say that you love seeing the rebroadcasts that you might have missed. And most of the time it's because I have to travel. And then bring it back, and we'll have more remote viewing and we'll know more about what is happening with 3I Atlas. I love you guys. Take care.
Turn on closed captions for YouTube videos by clicking the white CC button on the lower right. The default language for Linda's videos is English. If you would like to see the captions in another language, click on the white settings button next to the CC button. Select Subtitles CC, and then select Auto Translate. Select a language, and the captions will now appear in that language.
Sort of gone through, and they will hold their heads. I never had a cat do that before. And they'll pull against the comb, helping me get out snarls. And I think it's the best they've ever been.